Previously on Dangerous Affairs. Under the glow of string lights, Paul proposed to Helen, his girlfriend of 5 years, in a picture-perfect moment. But their future took an unexpected turn when Paul ran into Sandra, his first love from 15 years ago. Their reunion stirred old emotions and unresolved feelings, leading to a dangerous affair. Flashbacks revealed Paul and Sandra's teenage love, simple, tender moments of shared games, sunsets, and a promise sealed with a handmade bracelet. Sandra confessed the hardships of her past and her enduring love for Paul, rekindling their connection. One night, their nostalgia crossed a line, igniting a flame that neither could extinguish. While Helen happily planned their wedding, Paul struggled with guilt, torn between his commitment to her and his passion for Sandra. But secrets can only stay hidden for so long. The betrayal reached its climax when Helen walked in on Paul and Sandra together, shattering her world. Rage, heartbreak, and chaos unfolded, leaving Paul trapped between the love of his past and the promises of his future. Sometimes, the ghosts of yesterday are too strong to let go, and in holding on, we destroy the future. The soft, golden hues of the Abuja sunset poured into the apartment, casting an almost ethereal glow on the scene within. Helen stood in the center of the room, her hands trembling as she folded a dress, the same dress she had worn during one of her happiest dates with Paul. Now, it felt like a relic from another lifetime, a piece of a world she was leaving behind. The suitcase on the bed gaped open, half-packed, waiting to carry the remnants of a relationship that had unraveled at the seams. Paul hovered nearby, his once confident demeanor shattered into pieces as he watched Helen. His lips moved, forming apologies and pleas that she could no longer hear. The weight of his mistakes pressed down on him, but the chasm between them was too wide to bridge. "Don't touch me, Paul," Helen's voice broke the silence, quiet but firm, carrying the finality of a door closing. "And stop apologizing. I'm not angry anymore." Her words, calm and measured, cut deeper than any outburst could have. Paul stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper, as though afraid of shattering the fragile moment. "Helen's, please. I'm sorry. Don't go. We can fix this," he begged, his eyes searching hers for a glimmer of hope. She paused, her back still turned to him. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of weeks of sleepless nights and endless tears. "I'm not angry, Paul. I'm disappointed. In you, in myself, in the time I wasted believing in something that wasn't real. And most of all, I'm disappointed in dragging my friends and family into planning a wedding that will never happen." As she spoke, flashes of their life together flickered through her mind, those moments when everything felt perfect, only for them to be shattered by the weight of his betrayal. Paul's desperation spilled over, his voice rising slightly, cracking under the strain of the moment. "How do you know what's best for me? For us?" Helen's composure faltered for a moment, but she regained it quickly, her voice steady and resolute. "Because you're still in love with her, Paul. And I can't compete with a ghost." Her words hit him like a hammer, and he visibly flinched. She picked up her suitcase, the action punctuating her decision, and moved toward the door. "I wish you all the best," she said softly. But her mind churned. Memories of their most reckless adventures together surged like an uncontrollable tide. Their shared love of pushing boundaries had led to escapades they whispered about only in the dark, joining the Mile High Club on an impromptu trip to Dubai, sneaking into a private cinema for an intimate midnight rendezvous, and skinny dipping in a villa's pool during a business retreat they were supposed to be networking at. Paul had been her partner in crime, in business, and in life. Together, they had built not just memories but ventures, a catering business that had turned her culinary passion into profit, and a logistics company that had tapped into his savvy with operations. Their love was electrifying, but perhaps that same fire had also burned them both. "Where are you going?" Paul's voice cracked as he tried to keep her from slipping away. "Why can't we fight for this? I made one mistake, Helen. Just one. And you're leaving me?" Helen stopped at the door, her hand resting on the handle. She took a deep breath, her shoulders rising and falling as she steadied herself. When she turned slightly to face him, her gaze was calm but unyielding. "You didn't make one mistake, Paul. You made a choice. And every time you were alone, you had the chance to rethink it. But you didn't." her voice lowered to a whisper. There's a time to leave, even when you have nowhere to go. The sound of footsteps in the corridor outside broke the heavy silence. Helen opened the door and was met by Sandra, lounging casually with her phone in hand. Sandra's smirk deepened as she looked up. She's leaving you, huh? Sandra's voice was light, almost playful. Thought you'd need some emotional support? Helen froze, her calm facade cracking for the briefest moment. Then, with a sudden surge of fury, she dropped her suitcase and walked straight toward Sandra. Without hesitation, she slapped her hard, twice. The sound echoed through the hallway like a clap of thunder. Paul stepped forward, alarmed, but before he could intervene, Helen picked up a glass bottle from the nearby table and struck him across the head with it. Blood trickled down his forehead as he stumbled backward, stunned. It would have been cowardly to leave without leaving a mark, Helen said through clenched teeth, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Sandra screamed, rushing to Paul's side. Paul, stay with me. See what you've caused. Helen stood tall, her chest heaving. Her gaze swept over the two of them, and when she spoke, her words dripped with venom. He's yours now. Take care of him. She spat on the floor, grabbed her suitcase, and walked out without looking back. The sound of the door slamming behind her reverberated in the empty silence. 3 months later, Helen sat at a cafe in Lagos, her journal open in front of her. Her friends had been skeptical about Paul at first, warning her about his charm and the trail of heartbreaks he left behind. It had taken years for them to embrace him. Now, they pitied her, whispering about how she had been another name on his list. Chinyu, her best friend, sat across from her. Helen, let's be honest. Moving on won't be easy, but you're better off. Lagos is your clean slate. Let's write a new story. Helen smiled faintly, gazing out at the bustling city beyond. The energy of Lagos surrounded her, daunting but invigorating. The air felt different here, charged with the potential of what could be. She would rise, no matter how painful the road ahead. For the first time in months, Helen allowed herself to hope.